Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's Hurrdat Sports Radio presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. I'm Ravi. Lulla. DB will be joining me shortly here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. And as you heard from that intro, a big college football heavy show for you here today. Obviously, you've got that Notre Dame and Georgia playoff game last night, and you will have some more bowl games as well. Just coming up on the show today, we'll give you a quick rundown. Got Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Lots going on in the transfer portal for the Huskers. They've got a bunch of visitors coming in this week, so we'll talk to Tim about that. It's pretty interesting, I think, the positions that Nebraska is targeting along the way, and we'll get into that with Tim at 8 o'clock. Coming up at 8:45, we're going to reconnect with Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. We were missed connection with him yesterday, and we'll get his thoughts on the games over the weekend with Brian Edwards. 9 o'clock, we'll get Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports at NEBPreps, talk about the Metro Holiday Tournament that just wrapped up last night. I'm sure lots going on there with Papio South knocking off Westside for that Metro Championship on the boys' side, and Millard West knocking off Millard North for the Holiday Championship on the girls' side. And then we'll wrap up the show, as we always do, with our guy, Matt Vrzal, from former Husker and owner of Paisans Pizzeria. He'll wrap up the show, wrap up our short return week to the airwaves. But, of course, we've got to start with Notre Dame and Georgia. I don't know if you remember, Shane, I did guarantee a Notre Dame victory yesterday.
I remember that.
That was a thing that I did. I said Notre Dame will win this football game, and they did. It was a little ugly in terms of just the way Notre Dame goes about their business, but pretty dominant fashion. Now, Georgia did help them along the way with some of the mistakes they've made throughout the season, creeping back up on them, obviously being -2 in turnovers for Georgia. And then some of the dropped balls were just, frankly, a little unbelievable. The worst one was obviously that one to Bell that I don't even know what happened. I mean, they weren't playing in Dallas. They can't blame it on the sun or the sunroof or whatever Jerry World's got going on there. But just some unbelievable mistakes from Georgia along the way. And then, you feel bad for the walk-on Parker Jones that gets in the way of the official that negates a big play for Georgia as well. I'm not sure it would have mattered. Georgia had a few chunk plays along the way, and Notre Dame's defense did an incredible job, really, of continually turning them back. It wasn't that they didn't give up anything. They did get some chunk plays out of them, but Notre Dame's defense was unbelievable in keeping Georgia at bay the entire game.
There were some people that went pretty hard on Jones last night.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, listen, it obviously it's a terrible look. It's a bad mistake, but it's also not like guys aren't in that position on the sideline pretty much all the time. Not saying he should have been there, not saying that absolves him of responsibility, but I think it happens a lot more than maybe we realize, and guys either don't get flagged for it or a ref just doesn't happen to run into him. I don't know that he was inherently doing something super strange that no one else does. But yeah, Parker got it pretty good on the internet last night. I have to imagine as a walk-on, he may not be with the team next year. I don't know how vindictive or petty Kirby Smart is, but that certainly seems like a possibility. It's a walk-on at Georgia. You figure that guy's probably never going to contribute, but hopefully this doesn't end his college football career on a rather infamous note with that play last night. You could see, I kind of felt bad. The camera and the TV broadcast crew kept panning over to him and showing him on the broadcast and things like that. That probably didn't help the case out any. So thanks a lot for that, ESPN. But, it's one of those things that, and I don't know how much I want to get into this, but, it felt like one of those things where ESPN had to find a reason why Georgia was losing the football game. And the reason was Notre Dame. It was right in front of them. But it felt like ESPN needed more than that because as I've said many times, Shane, I don't know if you've heard this. I don't think the SEC is actually that good. Now, Georgia's one of the teams I did think was good, and with Carson Beck, maybe that's a little bit different of a ball game, but I didn't think Gunnar Stockton played poorly by any means. But that's I think to a large degree, the SEC's been propped up by ESPN because of their relationship with the conference, which I don't blame them. If I had a vested interest in a conference or a sport or whatever, I'd prop them up too. But I think it has dramatically changed the perception of what the SEC really is. And the fact is, the SEC, for most of this stretch that we've thought that they were crazy dominant, the truth is the SEC has been like most other good leagues throughout most of the history of college football. And that is they've usually got a couple good teams, and then everybody else kind of goes through phases, right? You know, we saw it. We see it with the Big Ten. Ohio State's up. Michigan comes up. Penn State comes up some. You have different teams sort of have their turns at the top next to either Ohio State or Michigan or whoever. But it kind of rotates. You got about two good teams at the top, and then, Minnesota has a nice year. And, that's weird. Northwestern made the conference championship game. And, Iowa had an 11-win season. That's kind of what just happens. You want to go back in the day to the Big Eight, it was the same thing with Nebraska and Oklahoma. Nebraska and Oklahoma were great. Everybody else was crap. And then every once in a while you had, Colorado's good now. Or, Kansas State's coming up a little bit. You had Kansas had a nice couple seasons in the 90s there. Iowa State has this random one-off 9-win year. That's just kind of how it goes in conferences. But for some reason, we've gotten this idea in our head, despite the fact that the SEC's had some truly terrible teams at the bottom of their conference, that it's just so impossible to navigate an SEC schedule. There's two things that have given us this perception about the SEC. One of them is ESPN propping them up. And the other one's the fact that Nick Saban, the best football coach in college history, was living in your conference. That's what made the SEC seem unbeatable. It was not an SEC thing. It was a Nick Saban thing. And most of these I was looking at it last night because I was preparing for, my SEC is a Ponzi scheme thing that I like to do, which it's not a bit. I really believe it's true. But
you be you.
So I'm looking at this run of, the famous, the 8-year run straight of national titles, and from like 2006 to 2014 when Ohio State won, you had the 7 or the 6 Alabama titles, the 7 Nick Saban titles in 20 years, all with SEC schools. So you have all these things going on, right? And I'm looking at it and I go, okay, so half of these championships are just Nick Saban doing Nick Saban stuff. The other half, literally it's the other half of the SEC titles in that time frame, Saban has 7, the rest of the conference has 7, are either Georgia back-to-back a couple years ago. You've got LSU that won them without Saban 12 years apart. One was a total one-off with Joe Burrow. We've seen what LSU's kind of been before and after that. They've struggled to be nationally relevant at that same level, even with a Heisman winner last year in Daniels. And then you have a random Auburn year, and that's it. You got the Florida years early. You got the random Auburn year with Cam Newton, which is very similar to the 2019 LSU team. And then you've got Georgia, who's been good the last few years. That's it. You're not talking about this great depth of teams in the SEC. And you know what's funny about those teams is a lot of their schedules were boosted by the fact that they had to play Nick Saban. Some of them beat Nick Saban, and that was the differentiator between them and another team with a similar record, was the fact that they beat Nick Saban. Now, not very many of them beat Nick Saban, but that was sort of a put your mark in the ground, plant your flag. We beat Nick Saban. Now we get to go play for a national championship. That's what was happening a lot in the SEC. Was everything was getting bolstered by Nick Saban and ESPN.
What does bolstered mean?
What does bolstered mean, Prime? Don't make me get into your record the last couple years.
So what would change?
I mean, maybe it would change and you'd be better than 2-9 against teams that finished 500 or better. Maybe that would be it.
You didn't build me, so you can't kill me.
I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna tell you what your record is against teams with a winning record. It's not very good. It's not great, Prime, as we saw against BYU. But aside from that, I don't want to sit here and pretend that the SEC is not a good conference. My point through all of this is that the SEC is not somehow inherently superior to everyone else. That seems to be, they're playing an SEC team. Oh, they're playing an SEC team. It's not real. It's all made up. We just decided it has value, and so it has value. There's a lot of things in our world that way, and I'm not going to pull too hard at that string because it's scary to think about too much. But we just assign value to something, and then forever it has value after that. That's what happened with the SEC. We just decided that they were valuable. We just decided they were good. We decided that an SEC team at 6-6 or 9-3 or whatever was somehow superior to a Big Ten team at 6-6 or 9-3, or a Big 12 team at 6-6 or 9-3, or we got to the point where we decided, or we were trying to make the argument that a 9-3 SEC team was better than a 10-2 or an 11-1 team from another conference. That's just not the case. The perception of what the conference is and the reality of what the conference is not the same thing. Was there a time in the late 2000s, early 2010s where they were probably a little bit ahead? Yeah, I don't think that's been true for at least a decade. I really don't. And their quote-unquote dominance has been carried by Nick Saban, and it's been largely negated as more teams got invited to the playoff. The fact that they were given free passes, essentially, to either championship games or playoffs, and some of them are undeniable and totally deserving. There are some teams where there's an argument those years, and the SEC would get the benefit of the doubt. When you're getting more bites at the apple, you're going to get more fruit. That's how it works. The SEC was guaranteed more bites at the apple because they'd been propped up.
How about them apples?
Do you like apples, Shane?
I do.
How you like them apples?
I like green apples. I like.
You big Honeycrisp guy?
I like red apples. I like caramel apples. I like Apple Jacks.
Apple Jacks are low-key. They're not bad.
Yeah, they're pretty solid.
You big apple juice guy?
Not a big apple juice.
Apple sauce?
I mean, I could do without. I mean, if it was
not big on the applesauce.
I mean, I'm not 3, so.
Just getting all condescending over it. I mean, some people like applesauce, Shane. I don't know. I'm not a big applesauce guy. The texture gets weird for me. Don't like anything that's sort of kind of a mushy texture. Not a big fan of that. But no, it's a. I think the continued narrative of the dominance of the SEC is largely fictional. We've seen that play out, especially this year in the college, not just college football playoff, in the bowl games in general. I know Ole Miss put it on Duke last night. They also, Lane Kiffin, not Shane Kiffin, Lane Kiffin was also trying to make a little bit of a point there. He was continuing to score late, and Jackson Dart was in that game way after he should have been. We'll leave that alone. I love Lane Kiffin, but, it felt like he was trying to get a point across about the SEC getting snubbed for a second ACC team. I put snubbed in quotation marks there. They did get 3 teams in. ACC got 2 teams. He made a comment during the broadcast, oh, look at that, we're playing an ACC team, and they were beating their heads in. Yeah, maybe Ole Miss is just better than Duke. Maybe that's a thing. Also, in these bowl games, motivation is a big deal. If you can figure out which team actually wants to be there, you'll go a long way in figuring out which team's going to win. I think Ole Miss, because of how they feel about, and it's kind of funny because Ole Miss was not even next in line for the SEC. They were probably 3rd after Alabama and Ole Miss, and then it was or Alabama and South Carolina, and then it was probably Ole Miss waiting in line to be in the college football playoff. So I don't really know what Lane Kiffin's beef is about. Maybe he's just riding for the conference, which is, again, something that I will give the SEC credit on. Part of the reason the narrative has been so successful is because the coaches and players do ride for the conference. And anytime they get a chance, we play in the toughest conference in the country. We play in the best conference in the country. No weeks off in the SEC, except for that week in November where you play some FCS team because you play one fewer conference games than everybody else. That one's kind of a week off, but we're going to ignore that one. We're going to ignore the fact that you don't really schedule that difficult because you're like, oh, man, we got to play an SEC schedule. Guess what? Big Ten schedule is pretty brutal too. Big Ten schedule is not easy either. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that the ACC and the Big 12 always hold up their end of the bargain, although Arizona State would like a word with Texas. I will tell you that the SEC, top to bottom,
Texas is a powerful player.
Might have more talent, not any better than the Big Ten. I had this discussion with our buddy Adam McClintock from Matrix Analytical. The SEC, on average, consistently out-recruits everybody else, including the Big Ten. The Big Ten second. The Big Ten coaching is so much better than the SEC that the results basically even out. That's what the numbers tell you over the last, I believe it was 10 years. The SEC consistently gets better talent. The Big Ten consistently gets better coaching. It basically ends up even. The conferences are not largely different. They look different, but in terms of quality of football, they are not largely different anymore. There may have been a time where that was true. That time has passed a very long time ago. And we saw essentially, I know Notre Dame is not officially a Big Ten team. I think we kind of honorarily think of them as a Big Ten team. They certainly played a Big Ten style of football last night and did not allow Georgia to get anything done whatsoever.
I'll take it.
I feel good about because obviously I guaranteed a Notre Dame victory. I picked Notre Dame to win the national championship. I'd like to see their offense get going a little bit more, although I do think Penn State can be a really good matchup for them. I'd like to see their offense get going a little bit more, but that's a Big Ten style football team that put it on Georgia. Put it on your SEC champion, Georgia Bulldogs. That's a I think a pretty damning statement for the SEC. I also, and Kirby Smart said this after the game, there's been this story about, it was bad to have a bye game, and it was bad to, it was bad seeding, first of all. Somebody asked me that on Twitter after I put out my obligatory SEC is a Ponzi scheme tweet last night. Somebody asked if I thought they were going to fix the seeding. I do. I think as soon as next year, it's going to be the top 4 teams get your buys. And then the conference champions, maybe you get a guaranteed home site as a conference champion in the first round. I don't think you can get guaranteed a bye moving forward because Arizona State and Boise State were both double-digit underdogs in those games. Notre Dame was a 1-point favorite, but that was a pick 'em, and with Carson Beck, it's probably a different line, and maybe it's a different game, but it's certainly a different line. But as Kirby Smart said, and I'll give him credit, 2 of those teams were just not as good as the other ones in Arizona State and Boise State. Arizona State absolutely had an opportunity to win, and that would have been perfect because then we would have 0 SEC teams in the Final Four in the semifinals of college football. But as is, I'll take it. We've got 3 Northern teams, and then you've got Texas, who was in the Big 12 until, I believe, July 1st. So the SEC all of a sudden is going to be clamoring to embrace Texas if they're the only ones carrying the water for the conference. And it's going to be pretty funny because most of them thought that Texas wouldn't be able to hack it in the SEC in their first year. They thought it was going to look a lot more like Oklahoma than it did for Texas. So that'll be an interesting thing I'm looking at as well, is to see how quickly the SEC honks around the country decide they want to embrace Texas all of a sudden as, we've got this great SEC team, this great SEC champion. It's kind of like when Nebraska came into the Big Ten, and all of a sudden you're seeing these Nebraska games from the 90s on BTN Classics, and you're like, I definitely don't remember this classic Big Ten game with Nebraska and USC. Nebraska and Miami in 1995. Oh, 1994. Oh, okay, yeah, that's definitely, I remember that being a Big Ten team. It's okay. I understand embracing new teams in your conference, but it's going to be really funny when the SEC starts asking Texas to carry the banner, carry the flag for the conference, where I think that a lot of SEC teams weren't necessarily thrilled about Texas joining the conference, and a lot of SEC fans were a little smug about Texas's chances to dominate in the conference as well.
Oh, how are the older guys going to take it?
How are the older guys going to take it? That's the million-dollar question. We will see we will get into that and much more. We'll have more college football throughout the day as well. It's a busy weekend. It's a busy time of year. Creighton plays Marquette tonight. They go up to Milwaukee to go face the top 10 team, the best team in the Big East right now. That's going to be an interesting one. I've got some concerns about Creighton and kind of the way they're playing right now. I'll be interested to see how they approach this game because
you always have concerns.
I do.
You're a very concerning person.
I'm a little nervous, Nelly, with the teams that I like. So I'll admit that. But it's I think we'll learn a lot about Creighton today. I think we'll learn a lot about them tonight when they go up to Milwaukee and face Marquette in that top 10 matchup. What you'll also learn about a lot in 1 week from today is the Omaha Supernovas. They open their season with the Atlanta Vibe right here at CHI Health Center on January 10th. Make sure you get to supernovas.com to see the banner raising, to see your defending PVF champion Omaha Supernovas kick off their second season right here in Omaha. That's January 10th. Supernovas.com is the website and the place to get your tickets. That's Shane. I'm Ravi. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio. We'll be back. Welcome back here at Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're here on the Pillar Exteriors stage. I'm Ravi Lulla. DB will be joining me shortly here. I want to get to some comments in the YouTube stream. Terrence says, Ravi, especially considering they said the Texas conference schedule was weak after always saying every game was a war. Yeah, that's a really good point. The SEC honks were kind of giving Texas a hard time for being able to navigate their schedule, saying that Shane Austin saying we don't have any audio on the stream. Can you look at that, please?
Yep.
Thank you. So they were, they were saying, oh, Texas' schedule is too easy. That's why they made it through. And now all of a sudden they're left with Texas to carry the water for the conference. So that's going to be a pretty tough pill to swallow, I think, for SEC fans. But I'm sure they're going to do some mental gymnastics, to try and convince themselves that everything's going to be okay. Dave chimes in, especially since Michigan beat Bama. Yeah, that's not a great. That's not a great Michigan team. Now they got better at the end of the year, and they also beat Ohio State. Obviously, now it's a rivalry game, so it's a little different. But the Alabama loss to Michigan is one of those where I was talking about. You got to figure out who wants to be there. And it didn't really seem like Alabama wanted to be there. It seemed like Michigan wanted to be there for sure. So that's one where you kind of have to look at it and you go, okay, maybe Alabama. I mean, Alabama has a lot of issues this year, right? They had every opportunity to make the college football playoff. It's pretty easy. You don't lose to Vanderbilt and you don't get boat raced by a mediocre Oklahoma team. But because it's got the brand name of Oklahoma and it's not a 6-6 Minnesota team, which is probably about on par with how good Oklahoma was this year, you get boat raced by 21 by a 7-5 Minnesota team. I think they were 7-5 this year. And you don't get any credit for that. But Alabama gets boat raced by an equally mediocre Oklahoma team. And you sit there and you go, oh, it's Oklahoma. They're better than their record, blah, blah, blah. They're switching conferences, and you make every excuse in the book, right? Alabama had every opportunity to make the college football playoff. They got beat by Vanderbilt, and they got boat raced by Oklahoma. Both of those teams finished 6-6. If Ohio State had lost to Nebraska, and Nebraska finishes 6-6 or 7-5, they're probably not getting as much credit for getting through the season as they did. That's the point of the conferences. It's not to say that the top of the SEC isn't good. It's not to say that the top Brian said the SEC cut my audio. That's funny, Brian. You can't hear that because you're listening on the stream, but it's a good joke. I appreciate it. But it's about the fact that that next tier of teams and the middle tier, the middle class of the conferences, aren't nearly as daunting as everybody else wants to make it seem. It's the same as every other league has been through most of the history of college football. You've got 2 good teams at the top. You have maybe a couple more that jump up for 2 or 3 year stretches, and that's the conference. The bottom of almost every conference is bad. The top of almost every conference is good, and the middle just kind of is what it is. That's how conferences have always worked. That's how they continue to work. Now, did have another comment on the stream here from Cornflicted. He says, do you think it'd be beneficial for college football to introduce a secondary postseason tournament similar to the NIT? In basketball, this could serve as testing ground for ideas and experiments. I mean, it kind of already exists. Like, that's what the bowl games have basically turned into. Now, if they wanted to organize those if you wanted to organize those in more of a playoff type format, so you could say, hey, we're the NIT champions of college football or whatever, that would be fine. You could try out different seedings and different bye weeks and things to do that. I don't know how much you would learn from that, but I do think they should try some different things with the bowl games to see what makes. This is sort of more of an entertainment factor than a competitive factor, but I'm obsessed with the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I love everything that they do. They don't take themselves too seriously. As my well-actually guy says, Missouri coach had it right. Bowls are exhibition games. Why fight the truth? They don't need to be life or death, but are actually entertaining football games for us to consume. I agree. Make them as entertaining as possible. Everybody should be the Pop-Tarts Bowl. The Pop-Tarts Bowl does not take itself too seriously. It's a pretty good matchup. Turned into an excellent football game. The Pop-Tarts Bowl was fun. It was just fun from start to finish. I appreciate that. I appreciate that they really lean into the ridiculousness of being called the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I like the fact that the trophy is a working toaster. I like the fact that they eat the mascot at the end of the game. I love all of it. It's terrific. Bowl games should be more like the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I would appreciate more of bowl games embracing that type of atmosphere. It's almost like a minor league baseball atmosphere in the sense of it's as much about the entertainment as it is about the game. And we are working on the YouTube stream for our friends on listening over the stream. We appreciate the heads up. And we'll get that done as soon as we can. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you listening. Shane, do we have a caller here? Shane, do we have Fred?
Yeah, we have Fred. He wants to talk about the targeting call from Arizona State.
Yeah, let's do it, Fred. What's going on, bud? Fred, you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you got for me, Fred?
I want you to go back to the Texas-Arizona State game, and when the receiver caught the ball in the fourth quarter, and the defensive back come up and hit him helmet to helmet.
Yep.
They buzzed it down to replay it. You tell me, can you go through that play and tell me how that's not targeting?
Fred, I would love to, but it was targeting. I mean, I can't go through it and tell you it wasn't. Like that. I mean, that was textbook targeting. I have no idea why they didn't call it. I really don't. That's a targeting. That should be a targeting call by every definition of what targeting is. There's no.
How can that happen in that size of a game? Was it more that Arizona State ain't going to bring as many fans as Texas, and so it was kind of a biased referee call, or what?
So the way I looked at it was the referee, and Fred, appreciate the call. The way I looked at it was the referee likely didn't want to make what he felt was a game-deciding decision in that moment. That's how I looked at it. I didn't look at it as, oh, Texas is going to be more mad or Arizona State. And I don't even think, as much as I think that ESPN props up the SEC, I don't necessarily think that there's any bias in terms of the referees. What I did think happened was a referee in that moment didn't want to make a call that he thought was going to decide the game. And that's wrong. Like, if there's a foul, you have to make a foul. We saw it last night in the Georgia Notre Dame game. There was a ton of contact in that game across the secondaries of both teams. They were both allowed to play super physically. And then you've got the 4th and 13, the pass into the end zone. It's an underthrown ball. I thought the contact and the ball got there about the same time. I could see an argument for pass interference in a game that had been called differently, but they were allowing a lot of contact in that game. And then they make a call, and it didn't end up deciding the game, right? But if they don't make the call, it probably seals the game for Notre Dame a little bit sooner. Now, Georgia missed on a 4th down later on that drive anyway, didn't end up mattering. And Steven's right. Like, whether you make a call or not, you're still deciding the game, right? You throw the flag, you don't throw the flag, you're still deciding the game. So you just have to try and make the right call.
And have we seen anybody out there, like, bias apart that would say that call should have been the other way? That
it wasn't a targeting?
Yeah.
No.
No, I mean, there's nobody out there saying that.
I have not seen a reasonable person.
Yeah.
I have not seen a reasonable person say, I don't think it was a targeting. That is textbook targeting. It checked all the boxes, all the criteria, the entire list. It was targeting. It was a bad no call. The only reason I can think that the ref didn't make it is they didn't want to make a game-deciding call. A decision that in Notre Dame, Georgia last night, the ref was okay making what could have been a game-deciding call. If Georgia was able to come back, that call likely would have decided the game. That 4th and 13 pass interference. That 4th and 13 pass interference was less of a pass interference than the targeting no call was a targeting, if that makes any sense. So, a call or a no call, if you're a ref, you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to have an input in deciding the game. You just got to try and get the call right. If you're out there on the roads, make sure you have that seat belt buckled. It saves lives and prevents injuries, but only when worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Shane, how you doing this morning? I was rude. I didn't ask. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. But I think we got the stream audio back, so life is better now.
We're like
Damon's on his way, so life will be better. We got, I'm doing pretty good.
Life will be better. Why, you don't like just hanging out with me, Shane?
I didn't.
Oh, I see how it is. I see how it is, Shane. Okay. Is it because
I like hanging out with you because you're a very concerning person. Because you're always thinking of me. So
I am always thinking of you, Shane. I'm trying to make your life easier. I'm always worried about your Raiders and what they're doing with their lives.
Good morning again.
How the most ironic thing here is that when you grew up, being a Raiders fan was probably like a little bit of a bandwagon thing. Like, I'm not hating on you, but they were really good back then, right?
At the time, the AFC West was the hot section.
Yeah.
To like.
So when did you start liking
the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Raiders?
When did you start liking
all the popular teams in the early 80s?
When did you start liking so it was like the early 80s you started liking them?
Yeah.
So the 80s was a good decade for the Raiders, right?
The 80s was a good decade all around for the AFC West.
Although less so for the Chiefs. The Chiefs weren't great in the 80s.
No, they weren't, and so I like that too. I mean, that was a good time.
Bro, you need to get your hands warmed up a little bit. So Shane, how ironic is it that after being a Raiders fan and they were good when you started liking them, that Detroit's now like the team of yours that is actually gives you a chance?
And and if you like Detroit, that's cool. I mean, they are probably the bandwagon team, and that's fine.
Although you started liking them when they were bad.
Yeah, but I used to not like it when people like bandwagon teams like that. But I wish everybody would bandwagon onto the Raiders.
Can I ask
Because
something since I was the irresponsible one this morning?
It's
what's
so
up?
much better when everybody
you
likes
can't.
your team.
Like,
Shane's just running the show.
when's a good time to like a bandwagon team in the 70s and 80s?
When's a good time?
Yeah. Like
what team?
I can tell you the perfect one, the Chicago Bulls. That was the bandwagon, ultimate bandwagon team of the 80s.
So like, what if you're a little kid?
See, that's why I give people leeway on the bandwagon.
Me
thing.
too. Like we just throw that around. Like people,
That's why I said
they like to gatekeep bad teams. Like, well, I'm a Browns fan because they've never been good. So like, if they got good, you would
you'd
like
be gone.
I just don't. I don't ever understand that.
I also
Something has to draw you to them, right?
well, so that's the other thing is, it's like, okay, so you just want people to do you not like football then? Like you don't like good football because you root for bad teams?
Yeah, I've never understood that.
That's why
now like if I was 35,
sure,
or 28, or
like
and I liked such and such a team, but then Golden State started. Like I was a Phoenix Suns guy.
Yeah.
And then Golden State started winning. I'm like, oh man, I like Golden State now.
Yeah.
Like I could see, but I don't know, man. Like.
So if you're like Shane's age and you start liking the Lions out of nowhere, but they were bad.
Well, the 70s and the 80s did happen for the Raiders.
Yeah. And that's when I started liking them. I don't have a problem with the bandwagon because every team that I like, you could look at and be like, oh, he's a bandwagon fan.
I used to have a really, really good friend, rest his soul, Nitty Gambier, huge Cleveland Browns fan.
Yep.
And one of his reasons that he liked the Browns is because they had never really been good and no one liked them.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
So he liked the Browns, and he was as big outside of Coach Lamonge. He's as big a Browns fan as ever.
Just like a contrarian. He just likes to go zigging.
He's a nice guy. I doubt he was a contrarian.
Not like our guy, Amazing Daniel.
No. By the way, he sent me the greatest message ever, and I think I iced him.
Yeah?
I think, because I remember, that was your boy was caught up. I'm just going to get back to him.
It's all right. It's all right.
Shane, that's a better picture of this morning.
If you haven't noticed that's DB.
I just coming out of nowhere.
He just drops in like a little paratrooper in the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill.
He's here. He's here.
How you doing this morning, DB?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Just out here.
Literally. Literally, man. I'm still traumatized over just I don't know, man. This last night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's traumatizing you?
I can't believe that that's the same team that lost to Northern Illinois due to being emotionally ill prepared.
Yeah.
It's not that you can anybody is capable of losing.
Yeah.
But the way that they lost, where they just were not
ready,
present, like ill prepared,
blows
my mind, because that's about as well coached a football team as you're going to see.
That might be the most prepared team I've ever seen. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. It's just
like from the special team stuff to like the game, the whole thing.
The next man up, what they're willing to do to win. Like that's as well coached a team as there is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I wasn't mad. I knew what Kirby was saying last night about the punt deal.
Yeah.
Because I think you have to, without continuous play, I think all 11 guys have to stay. You can't have all 11 guys
switch
off the field at one time. I'm like 90. There's a little technicality in the rule about continuous play, but I don't know if that would be considered continuous play, because you can do it as long as the ball is live. You should be good.
Yeah.
Did the center touch the ball?
I don't know.
See, that's what so I had to go back.
So if he touches the ball, it's illegal?
Yeah.
Okay. If he doesn't touch the ball, you can do whatever you want.
Then he's good.
I mean, if you...
He touched it. He touched it.
I didn't go back and look because I didn't know that rule.
Yeah.
Did you go back and look?
No, I didn't, because I was talking about it with Coach Frank, clearly.
Yeah.
He's
your rules guy.
Well, even he hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
But he was funny, though, because in very Coach Frank ways, he goes, well, it's not a high school thing, so I'm not going to say I know it all. Basically to say if it was a high school rule, he'd have known it.
Yes. And those are pretty good chance he knows it anyway, but yeah.
But regardless of the technicality, because, most people are very slow to respond to actually what happened because I don't think they know the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Just the stones to even act like you're going to go for it.
Yeah.
Because even if the free world thinks, oh, they're not going to snap it, because that was like the low-hanging fruit that everybody.
Oh, they were never going to snap it.
They weren't going to snap it. Well, no kidding. Like, the point of it is the execution of it.
100%. And then not just the execution of the switching the teams, but then the execution of when that guy jumps offside.
Yeah,
that everybody knows snap
your
it.
Centers, it has presence of mind to snap it.
And not just the center, but Riley Leonard's ready, and then the receiver took off.
Yeah.
Like, you need a bunch of people knowing what's going on.
You definitely had to have practiced that.
Yes. And there's a part of me because of that thinks they were going to snap it.
Yeah. And how about how they just have like random step up?
Yeah.
That's being well coached.
They had their best defensive lineman going into the game, didn't play. One of their best defensive linemen that was left got hurt in the game. Xavier Watts, their best defensive player who won defensive MVP, missed a chunk of the game with a shoulder.
No.
Love got injured. The guy that I was fawning over yesterday got injured in the game, wasn't really a factor. Yep. And none of it mattered. Literally none of it mattered.
Riley
Leonard throws for 90 yards.
Yeah, they did just enough on that offense is not good.
It's a little rough. That's my one concern moving forward is like, are they going to be able to move the ball enough against good teams?
I mean, Georgia had the same scouting report we did, right?
Yeah.
What I went ad nauseum. You've got one wide receiver. His name is Faison.
Yep.
Stop Faison. Can you not allow him to beat you and figure out what you're going to do with the quarterback run game? Like, that was it.
Then they couldn't ever figure out the quarterback run game.
It was untimely.
Yeah.
I felt like they had it kind of figured out. It was just, it was just.
But that's the thing about quarterback run game, right?
It is. You just never know. It's not the guy that goes for 200 every game. It's when he goes for 7 or 8.
Well, and it's which again we talked about yesterday, right? Riley Leonard is your 7 or 8 yards that kills you, guy. Mm-hmm. And the thing with quarterback run game is you have to be disciplined every time.
Yep.
That's the tricky part about it, right? Is you can stop them for 2.5 quarters, but what happened late? Every time Notre Dame needed a first down, Riley Leonard around the outside, Riley Leonard up the middle.
And Georgia can't catch. They can't catch the football.
God,
it's just,
I don't know how you recruit all those good players. None of them can catch
and everybody
football.
Talked about their offensive line all year, and they had some issues, right?
And then they had a guy missing too.
They had a few issues with elite defensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
They can't catch though.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's their thing. Like what you asked me yesterday about Georgia's or Notre Dame secondary? Who's Georgia going to throw to?
Yeah. Well, they can throw to anybody they want.
Those guys drop balls all year.
Led the country.
All year they drop balls.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm on.
You could not be more open than Bell was. I don't even know what happened.
So, he's interesting. Yeah. I watched him again, go all the way back to Clemson, like how and they got him the ball and, it's like on ends around and little gimmick. He's not a natural pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
Even the one he dropped, his hands, his thumbs were
the wrong direction
down on a ball
that was up
above his waist.
It's got to be right here.
It's just, it's like.
Yeah, that ball was like chest high, right? Like it was really.
Balls up, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty, just little.
I mean, I just don't even know. Like, it's not like I'd never been like I didn't play wide receiver ever. But that's just how you naturally.
You look like you're super fleet of foot, though. You weren't catching the rock.
I was more of like a Kyle Juszczyk type of guy, more of a utility.
My buddy, he's like, George is not that good. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. They were overwhelmed on the offensive line and found a way to hang in there. Like
Georgia's not as good as they have been,
but they're pretty good.
They're still probably one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Yeah, I'm
4 or 5.
Yeah,
not far outside of that.
I mean, I'll look at them in Penn State and be like, ooh, different. I think Penn State's pretty good.
Yeah, I would maybe take Georgia over Penn State. Healthy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. Tim Verghese next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. And we are joined now by our friend Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Tim, what's going on, man?
Hey, not too much. How about y'all? Can y'all hear me okay?
TV, yeah. It's a song for you youngins called Alive and Kicking. And you are alive and kicking. I don't even know who sings it. Shane, who sings that song? Do you know?
I do not have
NXS. It's one of those bands that Shane probably would have liked when he was little with long hair. Flock of Seagulls. I don't know.
You're gonna have to give Tim your music list. He was looking for recommendations.
Oh, TV, man. I got about 16 playlists. What do you like, Tim?
I listen to everything. So that's why I just like fresh sounds. I like, stuff that means something. I listen to all of it.
Are you a lyrics guy? Big lyrics guy, TV?
Weirdly, no. Like I'm a because I grew up a musician. I played drums growing up, so I've always been just more
a little percussionist. You. That's nice. So do you just sometimes sit around and you're just like,
I say you tapping all the time?
Yeah, all the time. Like if I'm driving, yeah, it gets on people's nerves. But when I drive,
yeah, I was gonna say you'd have to move out. Yeah. I'm like that. You know that little deal that I do like on the walls and stuff where I just do beats.
Yeah,
it drives people crazy. Right, get out. So TV, how a level of surprise? I told this to Ravi, and it's not that Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, right? Teams they stubbed their toe. It's that they looked so ill prepared. When I know that's about as well coached a team, at least this year, maybe that I've seen. Like the contrast from being so ill prepared against Northern Illinois to their level of execution the last half of this season has been incredible.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like when you go back and look over the course of the season, that feels like the one game for them that's completely out of character. And you compare that to a couple other teams like, hey, okay, like Indiana, there's individual games you can point to and be like, okay, well, this felt like an aberration. This felt
a little bit of fools. Yeah.
Right. But it was on the positive end. For Notre Dame, it was like, oh, the one like fools and like type game is like, hey, it's the loss to Northern Illinois, because every other game they've played this year, they have looked like a very well coached team. That plays physical up front defensively, that flies around more than anything defensively. Like I love watching them play on the defensive side of the ball right now. And yeah, I think an understated part of all of this is the quiet development of Riley Leonard over the course of the season and the emergence of Jeremiah Love, who I think is one of the best backs in the country.
Tim, is there enough offense with the development of Riley Leonard, and whether or not Love is healthy? Is there enough offense for Notre Dame to win a national championship?
I don't know about that. I think the way this slate works out, potentially, just because I think, as good as this Ohio State team is, I think that's the team you're looking to beat at this point. I think that's the one. And then, with Penn State and Texas as well, I think there's enough there to bank them defensively. But if you're talking about like, okay, hey, of these four teams that are left, which offense presents you the most trouble? It's Ohio State. But even Ohio State, I think the book is somewhat out on them. And it just ultimately comes down to, can you play NFL level defense, which I think Notre Dame can with the personnel they have.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was so glad to hear Roman Harper say it, because he had some actual courage. I get it, because the last 4 weeks we've heard this fawning over Jeremiah Smith. He's incredible. Don't get me wrong. He's going to make his fair share of contested catches. He's got great body control. He's got all the things you want in a top pick. But I'm reading, he'd be in everybody's top 3 rotation. Yesterday it was he'd be an all-pro. And I'm like, no, he wouldn't, guys. Like, number one, the league has amazing wide receivers. Number two, give yourself a chance by not turning him loose. He would have almost been non-existent against Nebraska for not a blown coverage. And I'm not diminishing that he's elite. He's a great player. But you have to give yourself a chance by accounting for where he is. He just inexplicably gets turned loose. And if that's the case, it gives some credit to Brian Hartline, maybe give some credit to Chip Kelly for play design, because the amount of times Smith is running wide open is incredible. Or is that just me?
Do we gotta give any credit to Bouquet for taking some attention? Like, because you have to cover a Bouquet.
Like how is Smith wide open when he's not beating you off the line of scrimmage?
Right. Yeah. It's more than anything. It's like, the Oregon safety group. I mean, that wasn't their best day by any means.
What was that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like communicate, like rotate over, like, again, be accountable for where number 4 is on the field. Like, I feel like that should have been like that should have been in the game plan as soon as you realize that's who we were playing in the playoff. Like, hey, like, it's Jeremiah Smith. Like, again, like, it's a freshman, but that's a guy you need to be accountable for, like, where he is on the field. I was stunned by that. I was stunned by Oregon's defensive performance more than anything. I thought there was a world where, hey, especially with Evan Stewart out, the offense wasn't going to be able to keep up or score enough points. I didn't think it was going to be a world where they're already caught in that type of hole and they had to work themselves out of it. And it was pretty much over pretty quick.
I just was glad to hear Roman Harper say, like, yeah, he's legit, but just figure out where he is. Give yourself a chance. I'm like, yeah, Pat, because you can say that without sounding like a hater. Like, you can give a guy his due, but man, at least compete.
I mean, like, a bunch of Michigan defenders said like similar things of just like, hey, like, rotate over to the guy, like, adjust your defense accordingly to make sure you have bodies on top of Jeremiah Smith. That's what Michigan did. That's how they kind of neutralized him. And again, I don't know if Ohio State's game plan against Michigan was sound, and if they play like they did yesterday, they probably beat Michigan, or the other day they probably beat Michigan. It's not about that. It's more so of the sense of, like, like you're saying, give yourself a chance, and that's just something where, hey, Tosh Lupoi has NFL experience, Dan Lanning has NFL experience. That's just something you have to learn and work from moving forward, because you're going to keep running into this guy for the next 2 years.
I'm telling you this. I know this is blasphemy, man. I just do not love Tosh's ability to adjust, like, football acumen. He can recruit. He's a high energy guy. I don't schematically though. I don't know. It's just me. I apologize for my little tangent. Any votes for Tosh?
I thought you were saying Lanning was overrated for a second.
No, because I think I don't know what you guys think. TV, I think there's something to being able to corral temperaments and get guys on board and to play a certain way. Like, not everybody's going to be like the X's and O's guru or the cheerleader, or it's hard to get the all-in-one guy. But I give Lanning credit. Like, Oregon was pretty good. They laid an egg, but that team was pretty good all year.
Yeah, I think he got, like, again, his ability to recruit. I mean, and we hear it all the time of just like, hey, when Dan Lanning takes the recruitment personally, like, it's over. It's one of those things. It's tough to compete. He's an excellent recruiter. Does a really good job of managing personalities. I mean, you got a lot of personalities that in that room right now, in that building, from coaching staff down to players. Does a really good job of managing everything. And doesn't leave a whole lot of stones unturned in terms of pursuing greatness. Like, you look at the analytics staff he has behind the scene, the guys he's put together. Like, he's constantly searching for answers and solutions. He reminds me a ton of early Georgia Kirby Smart. Like, he'll get it figured out eventually. It feels like inevitable.
That's a good pull. And
so they came from
their
tree,
affinity
right?
for one another is clear.
Oh yeah.
I think another thing that we overlook is the ability for how important it is for even high level guys or successful people to have people that believe in them still. Right? Because we kind of take it for granted. It's like, such and such player doesn't really need, he's good or she's good. Or I think the wherewithal that quality coaches have to invest in everybody in terms of kind of being the wind beneath their wings is underappreciated in big time athletics, because it's very, very difficult to function at a high level every day as an 18 to 22 year old. It just is.
Oh, for sure. And you see what happens, like how quickly kind of the bottom falls out for, former elite recruits or former top guys. When that faith is lost, when it is like, okay, hey, they're third string, kind of bottom of the barrel, probably going to get processed out the next time the transfer portal opens. You kind of see how it's like, okay, unless you're really, really strong-willed and individually strong, you see how fast they can start to fall off. We see that time and time again at the NFL level as well, where it's like, hey, former elite recruit, why is he out of the league in 2-3 years? It's because no one really believes in him. Like that's all that stuff matters a ton.
We're talking with Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Speaking of getting transfer portal and processing guys in and out, I know Nebraska's got a big group of visitors coming in this week that people are definitely interested in. What areas are you seeing Nebraska look at, and any names that you're seeing that you are particularly intrigued by?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by how aggressive they're being defensively right now. They brought in Marquise Watson-Trent. He's on campus right now. He came in last night from Georgia Southern. Was the Sun Belt Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Played against Nebraska a couple years ago, 2022. Had 10 tackles when Georgia Southern upset Nebraska, which kind of obviously led to a domino of events. But a very talented player, one that makes a ton of sense to kind of like add to the room. But they're also bringing in another linebacker, Trey Lathan from West Virginia, or at least that's the plan as of now. Is he supposed to come in this weekend?
It's going to be a wild card, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, hey, we're bringing. I thought they have room for one more linebacker. Bringing in two is interesting, but kind of tells you what they think about that room and the depth in there, and kind of what they want to add to it. And then they're being aggressive in the secondary. Obviously, added Andrew Marshall and Justin Rhett over the break. They're working to get Corey Gordon from Baylor in town. Arizona's Marquise Gross-Killebrew could also be in town. They're working at DB. They've obviously got Jalen Davies from UCLA as well on campus right now. You look at those three guys, and the one thing those three have in common is experience. And Davies is a guy that has been inconsistent, at his best. He's a mainstay for one of the better defenses in the country for UCLA back in 2023. But then this year he got benched at the end of the season. So it's like, which Jalen Davies are you getting? You kind of just trust that, hey, John Butler and the defensive staff is able to get that guy, up to consistent play if he does end up coming to Nebraska. Corey Gordon, I think, is the one that fascinates me the most. That's a safety. That's like a guy that can play all three spots in the safety. And right now, there's no clear solution of what the rover position, who's going to play rover. But you know how important that is to this defense. And I think Gordon makes some sense there. But you also just need veterans. You need guys that can fly around in the defense in the back end right now. Corey Gordon's that, because you need, like we said, all season there was an athletic deficit back there. I think Corey can help, kind of minimize that a little bit.
Yeah, I think rover is the key as well. Tim, let me ask you about the D-line, because I know I still think, even with the guys that you're describing in the portal, and I don't want to ask a leading question, but with multi-year guys and guys where you could, even with Red at Georgia, right? What's the book? The book is, well, the talented guy, but we've got to get X, Y, and Z, or the consistency. There's still this thing with Nebraska, even through the portal, where there's a development piece to it. Can you build through the portal, with the portal, I should say, and still be of a developmental mindset and be successful? Because none of these guys so far defensively are what you would call a finished, ready-made product.
Right. That's, I think, the challenge and what I'm curious to see, because hypothetically, yes, and I like the strategy, again, hypothetically of, okay, we get guys in that have multiple years to kind of grow and develop within the same scheme. And we may have struck out, like, Williams and Renard, we struck out on him the first time around. He's entering the portal a little more humble, looking for an opportunity, understanding it kind of has to happen at this next spot. And so, you kind of bank on, okay, hey, well, Jamar Mosey got the most out of him. Having Jamar on staff will help, keep the pressure on him. You're getting a defensive staff and a defensive line coach that knows what to do with a body like his, with a frame like his. And then, like with Rhett as well, it's another one. It hasn't clicked on for him just yet. Maybe a change of scenery is what he needs, that additional pressure. And then, that's a guy that it's not about this year. It's about, the years to come. Rhett might not be a starter this year, might not even be a rotational player this year, but it's about 2026 and beyond with him. So hypothetically, yes, but at the same time, both of those guys could just ultimately enter the portal at the end of next season. So hypothetically, yeah, you could use it as a portal. And the idea, in my opinion, is over the summer, you get some of those like multi-year portal type guys locked in on multi-year revenue share contracts where they have to give you 2 seasons. And then you kind of go from there. And maybe moving forward, we start to see more and more of that, because when you do get into this revenue sharing business, you can lock in kind of contracts, quote unquote contracts. That's kind of the hope. But yeah, I'm curious to see kind of how that goes, because like you're saying, there's not a whole lot of like proven talent outside of an Andrew Marshall on the defensive side of the ball through the portal so far.
Yeah, and you know one thing I think, and I don't know hard numbers, so this is a little bit of speculation on my part. I think one thing Nebraska will do better and continue to have be important to them is they will spend wisely. I don't think this is going to be a deal where this is going to be some catch and grab. And I think they know kind of where their culture is. And it seems like they're not going to upset the apple cart unless somebody's just outside of being dynamic. I think they will spend wisely for personnel.
Yeah, and we've already kind of started to see that a little bit, especially in the offensive line. You know, people I think are getting a little antsy about the fact that they haven't really landed one where they need it. But, you know, they had Keegan Trost from Wake Forest on campus. They had Dominic from Michigan on campus. And both those guys ended up at Missouri because for the most part, you know, they were kind of looking for assurances in terms of play time and how much time they'd, like getting a guaranteed starter spot. And they wanted to be compensated accordingly. And for Nebraska, it's like, hey, you know, we feel kind of good about the interior of our line specifically and the depth we have there. And we don't want to ruffle any feathers. So, you know, we'll kind of move on and you can go take your bag, from Missouri. But we're kind of good there. And that's kind of the way they're operating too. As I think when you see defensive back recruiting as well, you know, they don't really seem to be getting up in arms about some guy, especially unproven talent that's ending up elsewhere when, you know, they know what their board is. They know what they have. And they're being picky, you know, like, again, like hypothetically, you look at the names, they're like, oh, Idaho cornerback, Georgia Southern linebacker. These are some of the better players in college football that they're adding to the roster. You know, they're not just going out and finding Power 5 guys and retreading Power 5 guys. You know, they're finding guys that have produced at a high level that still have untapped potential that they could continue to tap into and kind of balancing that long-term developmental aspect with that, okay, we need proven production as well.
Tim, do you think they view development in kind of two different ways? One, development where a guy needs to develop his body, and two, where a guy's got sort of the physical tools already but needs to develop their skills? Because one of those takes longer than the other, right? Like it takes longer to build a guy's body up than it does to coach them up, I would imagine. Do you think they view it differently when they're looking at these guys?
Yeah, somewhat, because I think if you look at the guys that need to work on their body, we're just talking transfer portal additions, guys that need to work on their bodies. Hardly Gilmore is one. Williams and Ranieri is one. There's no talent question there. There's no talent question with both those guys. And even Hardly, the biggest thing with him, he's got a combination of tools right now that's pretty hard to find. And he's a little further polished as a route runner than you'd expect for a guy that is relatively you would consider somewhat raw. Like he's got some route running nuance to him. He's a little further along in certain elements of developmentally where, okay, you add a couple pounds to him. You add a couple pounds to Williams and Ranieri. All of a sudden, it's like, hey, the light hasn't come on just yet. But part of it's because you're a little undersized right now. And Williams is one. You know, he's playing right around 260 at 6'7". Get that guy up to 270, 280, and see what he looks like in the spring. You know, and that could happen pretty quick. I think that, yeah, like you're saying, like. I think what we're seeing is the guys that are kind of unproven or need that development in the weight room. They have the combination of tools where the light should come on pretty quick once they get up to speed weight wise.
Yeah, so I'm watching, I'm listening, right, and I look at offense versus defense. TV. What do you think about this? Seems like defensively there is this supreme confidence in schematics in development, especially now that Coach Rule can spend more time defensively, and he has a confidant over there in Coach Snow. Offensively, it seems like there's got to be this minimum baseline of talent, but you need to be close to a little more ready-made because offense seems more philosophically about more plug and play. Offense seems more plug and play than defense, in my opinion, as I'm looking at and listening to you talk body types and assets. Is that fair or foul?
No, very fair. And part of that is, hey, you've got a guy in Dana Holgorsen that runs a scheme that is beneficial to quarterbacks and wide receivers. The only thing you have to do as a wide receiver is win one-on-one matchups. They didn't have enough of those guys this year. So they brought in a Day and Key, whose best traits are beating press off the line, separating downfield, creating contested catches, and winning those one-on-one type battles. Then you have an Isaiah Hunt who's got a combination of height, weight, speed that allows him to kind of separate in one-on-one type situations. Then you've got a Harley Gilmore who's somewhat of an upgrade in terms of a deep threat because of his combination of size and downfield speed and route running ability. And then you add that to a Cortez Mills, who's one of the better 50-50 ball getters in the 2025 class, and Isaiah Mosey, who does a bunch of the yard after catch stuff well. A running back room that's kind of rounding out with a bunch of different bodies and frames. Again, they have to address the offensive line. I still think that's something that needs to be done through the portal, whether it's this cycle or next cycle. That's something that needs to be done. But yeah, defensively, I think more than anything, they feel there's a quiet confidence in some of the young pieces in that room. And again, defensively, you win as a unit. It's about winning as a unit. And I think there's that overall confidence of like, we win 11 man on 11 man. But offensively, you need to have guys that can win those one-on-one matchups. And that's what they're going out and getting right now.
TV, when you take a look at, playing complementary football, and we'll see what Nebraska ends up doing with special teams. If we're right philosophically on how this thing is kind of shaking out, do you like the fact that they'll be practicing against one another? Is that a good fit philosophically for a productive unit?
Yeah, I think ultimately yes, because I think all of these receivers and then a year or two of Dylan in this scheme is going to challenge this defense in ways they may not get challenged early on this season, just with the schedule that's out there. Like, they're going to get challenged more in practice, in my opinion, than they will on the field sometimes. And I think you're going to start to hear those type of quotes coming out of spring ball because, Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, those are nightmare matchups. Those are one-on-one guys that, they one torched, the ACC, the other one has torched the SEC.
And it's going to be interesting too for a second-year quarterback, because I think Butler, by design, I think he's a pressure guy. And you're going to see multiple looks that simulate pressure. It's going to be fascinating.
Right. And the biggest thing is just how are they going to be able to adapt? Because the one element that Nebraska's offense, I don't think it's going to have as much going into next year, is that physical element that you are going to see at times, that physical run game element. Like, that run game is going to be there with Emmett Johnson. How physical is it going to be? Are you going to have like a run heavy scheme? Like, is the scout team going to be able to give the defense enough looks that they're prepared for what they see in the Big Ten? That remains to be seen, but I think you have some faith in this coaching staff because they've done a good job of preparing guys, at least for the looks they've faced so far, and moving forward for the teams they have to face.
That's our guy, Tim Verghese, inside Nebraska. Great as always, Tim. We appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week.
TV, appreciate you.
Next week. Appreciate you.
We need to get into that.
Which part?
The practicing against one another for good. Because remember, Coach Rule, this is off air or whatever. He was, I want an answers guy for defense that has answers. I'm going to watch these guys develop in practice.
We'll get into that coming up next. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's Hurrdat Sports Radio. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Notre Dame getting that big win last night. And, we were talking off air a little bit. And as well coached as they are, as good defensively as they are, you kind of always sit there and go, are they as good as they think they are?
Yeah, they're the consummate but team.
Yeah, which was Michigan last year.
Yeah. I mean,
I think Michigan's a little better offensively than Notre Dame is.
They're just, and I don't even know because they have so many guys hurt.
Yeah.
Like, let's not undersell that.
Yeah.
I didn't love the way, was it Schlabach? Somebody wrote an article last night. It was maybe one of the ones I sent you, like 2. I don't know if that might have been the press conference clip. But, he said something like, transfer something, Notre Dame finds a way to win. And he went in to tell the story, and I don't think he was being detracting from the overall performance or the development. But he talked about the portal guys, 6 or 7 of the portal guys that have helped have impact. And I'm like, well, number one, that's a lot of college football teams. Number two, there's something about we miss this whole point all the gosh darn time. There's something about getting guys in to buy into what you're doing. It's not just about having good players.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of coaches that have had lots of good players, and they still can't function at a high level.
You think Alabama has better players than Notre Dame this year?
Yeah, I think they have better players than Michigan too.
Yeah.
Right. And for whatever the reason, like the dirty little secret, Michigan had more opt-out guys than Bama.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I know you like DeBoer, but you can't.
I'm concerned this year.
You can't just say, like, for teams, well, when they lose, they weren't up for it. And when they win, it's because they're more talented. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we got to stop doing that.
Can't have it both ways.
There's three things that are the most overrated things in the world. You ready?
Yeah.
Too much makeup and nail polish.
Okay.
Grass-fed beef.
Okay.
And conference affiliation.
You definitely have me on the conference affiliation. We're on the same page there.
Right? I mean, three of the most overrated things on the planet that people think matter that ultimately don't.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Conference affiliation doesn't get you anywhere.
But people just, you don't like my list? Man, that list
It's a pretty good list.
The list is solid.
I don't know if it's the three most overrated things in the world, although I'll put conference affiliation up there for sure. I did a whole, I don't know if you know this. I do some rants on the SEC every once in a while.
Oh, man.
But no, yeah, I think there is, it's clear that having the most talent doesn't mean you're going to win the most. Like that's clear.
And we're just so dismissive. Do you know it's like the KD Golden State thing? Do you know how many people have tried to win with KD and couldn't?
Everybody else. Literally everybody else.
It's like,
this is why KD is my most controversial internally Lulla star, because I don't know what to do with him. I don't know what to do with KD.
It's like, I mean, I don't love Dan Campbell in game. Matter of fact, I don't really like him at all.
But those guys are gonna play for him.
Yeah, and I don't love PJ Fleck.
Those guys are gonna play for him.
They play for him. Like,
now, here's the impressive thing about Marcus Freeman. I do love the way he coaches, and they're going to play for him.
So I'm biased when it comes to Freeman.
Sure, because
I know the most about it.
Yes,
and I know his approach. I know his sales.
Guys that have been recruited.
I know guys that have been recruited by him. So, like, I'm all in on Freeman, and it's very, very undersold.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go back to something. This whole thing came up a year, whatever, with Teddy and going to Notre Dame, and I talked to Coach Rule, and he's like, this won't happen to me again. And Notre Dame came in late on another couple of West Side guys, and so we're going back and forth about Notre Dame and how they recruit. And DJ said something to me I think was really interesting. And it would be easy for him to be bitter, right? Mm-hmm. You're talking about a season ticket holder.
Yeah.
This guy loves Nebraska. I mean, he's at the bowl game with Damian Peter and his family. Great friends with like he's a Nebraska guy. Mm-hmm. Loves Nebraska. Easy to be bitter.
Definitely.
Right?
I'd probably be bitter.
One of the guys you had to fire didn't know his kids' names. Mm-hmm. Like, right? Not a great experience.
Yeah.
He said, why I think he said Nebby. He said, no, I think Nebby's gonna eventually win. Man, Coach Rule and Coach Freeman are a lot alike. They're kind of the same person. I can hear this, and he would just pull out these clips. Mm-hmm. He's like, when he says this, it's like this, and it's this, and it's like this, and I'm like, like dead on.
Yeah.
Like dead on. You're just gonna have to give guys like that some time. And remember, how many times did Notre Dame want to get rid of Freeman? 3?
This is year 3, right? And it's
3 different times.
It's basically been last year, 2 years ago, and then after Northern Illinois.
Yeah, right. Like,
yeah. So, he was firmly on the hot seat after Northern Illinois.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not sure there's a better coach team in football right now than Notre Dame.
So it's like,
is there a young guy you would take over Marcus Freeman in the country?
I mean, do I get Golden with him?
I mean, no,
probably not.
But do you trust his ability to find a different Golden?
Yeah.
Like, it's Freeman and Lanning as far as the guys under 50, right?
Yeah, and I would take
Dillingham.
Over the long haul, I would take Freeman over Lanning.
I would too.
I think he can burn longer.
Yeah. he doesn't rev as high.
Yeah,
he's a very low key.
I think he can burn higher.
But I mean, not a better coach team in the country than Notre Dame. I don't. That's not a hot take. I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, they survived. How many kicks in a row did they miss in the middle of the season? You should have seen their place kicking. I'm always constantly watching those guys just because I'm trying to check out.
Yeah.
It's like they can't make a field goal.
Yeah.
Then they have to improvise inside the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watch him play in the middle 8. And it's like, and Husker X's note last night, he nailed, they're so good in the middle 8. They're the best in the country.
Mm-hmm. And what did we see last night?
Oh, they won the game. 1, 2, 3. They won the game with an by the way throw-in that wasn't good enough to be a wide receiver. So when they took him from Marshall, they're like, he's fast. Maybe he could just return kicks. Then he gets a key block to spring a 3rd down run to extend the clock.
Yep.
That's coaching.
Yeah.
You have to get guys like that to buy in.
Yeah. Because you know who famously doesn't really like to block? Really fast wide receivers.
Yeah, you see Cordell Patterson just laying the wood sometimes? No, you don't. And by the way, Brian, he said I nailed my list. That list is incredible.
I didn't disagree with anything on the list.
Shane, did you like my list?
The world's most overrated things?
I wanted to throw in another one, but they would really offend some ladies out there. At least up to now, I still like my job. Shane, was that a solid list?
That's all.
I agree with the grass-fed beef for sure. People make a whole thing out of it.
Dude, you don't think makeup and
No, I do. I mean,
ugly nail polish is not overrated? It doesn't ultimately matter.
The
for
nail
the people
polish
they want it to matter for. It
doesn't.
Well, I feel better about me. Okay. No, I got that. Listen.
You do you.
Yeah. I just don't like surprises. But anyway. See what you did, Brian. You got me to go all DB.
Surprises can be fun.
Surprises can be fun.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some surprises are less fun than others.
Yeah, I don't.
You know?
I don't know. Not surprised that Illinois whooped Oregon last night.
I'm surprised they whooped them like that.
I'm telling you.
Illinois is really good.
Yeah,
Illinois is really
I'm not
good.
going to say it anymore.
We're on the same page there.
Yeah, but people forget about them because they fell out of the top 25, kind of.
Rankings this time of year don't mean a lot.
No, I'm with you.
I mean,
hey, which sport would you like to see do away with preseason rankings more? Basketball or football? Basketball, you at least have more time to correct.
Football. Definitely football.
Really? It's a short time window. When would you start rankings in football?
October 1. I need to get through a couple conference games.
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
I'm not going to give you a ton of pushback.
Because this goes to my whole SEC as a Ponzi scheme thing. It starts with the preseason rankings.
How funny was DeMarinis last night?
Terrific.
3, 2, 1.
That's how you start the Ponzi scheme is you start them all ranked in the top 10. And then when they get losses, it's like, oh, but it was to another SEC team. We can only drop them a couple spots here. Notre Dame went to 23rd when they lost to Northern Illinois. Oh. Northern Illinois made a bowl game, by the way. Yeah. It's not like they lost to a 3-9 MAC team, right? By the way, get rid of the preseason rankings. At least with basketball, you have Ken Pom and some of the other metrics to figure some things out. Get rid of football preseason rankings.
October, huh?
October 1.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. You think people can handle it?
Well, I can hold my
Our heads might explode. Brian Edwards coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our friend Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider from Major Wager. What's up, B?
Good morning, fellas. Happy New Year. What's happening?
B, how we doing, man?
We're doing good. Thank goodness I grabbed some Georgia plus 13.5 live to mitigate the pregame damage on Georgia. So it was a loser, but not nearly as bad as it could have been.
I mean, you should have listened to your boy. Guaranteeing Notre Dame wins out here.
Hey, and you know what's funny is
good call.
You got the sense that as well coached as Notre Dame was, I'm not going to say no business, but you could have easily seen how they could have lost that game too, just as bad. I mean, Georgia, with the sideline penalty, or you don't fumble early, or you at least allow Notre Dame to get in their feelings a little bit. or allow Stockton to get a little confidence. And I could have easily gone. I mean, but that's the beautiful thing about competing, though, because when you don't seize the moment, you have your ass at home in your fields, and just like that, right? Like that's why the moment matters. Like that's part of it.
Yeah. Etienne's fumble, P. Jones's little deal maybe cost them 4 points.
I didn't love the way. So I'm a big Etienne guy, and I get it. He was coming off the ribs injury the last third of the season. I thought he did a very poor job last night running with any sort of authority and reading his blocks. He was dinking around. I'm like, Etienne, that's not how you run the ball, man. Just go. He was not good. Quietly, he was not good last night, and he's kind of their catalyst.
I don't know that it was that quietly not good.
You know what I mean? Well, you had to kind of get inside
where I was.
How he was running. It's like you're just like, why are you dancing? Like just go.
Right. Yeah, because he's usually so explosive in north-south. But yeah, he was kind of dancing last night. But the fumble was critical, and then the drop by 80. It was an 85 or 86
on
the bomb early. I thought Stockton played well.
So I was surprised that they put so much on his plate, but clearly he's capable.
Right.
Yeah, he's capable.
No, they abandoned the run early, didn't they?
Yeah, it was mind-boggling. You even try to test the belly. Like if your left tackle is a turnstile, run the football.
Kirby was seemingly conceding that he was going to go conservative by ice, which I've never been a big ice the kicker guy, and but yet so because he burned a timeout, so then we have 2 timeouts, but then he does a 7-step drop to start the drive, with whatever there was left, 40 seconds or so, and then they get the sack, strip, fumble, and then 7 points.
Yeah.
Ouch.
B, let's get into the big weekend we have for the NFL. The biggest game, Lions and Vikings. Lions, you've got as a 3-point favorite. What do you like there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said it all year. Lions -3 or fewer at home against anybody, and I obviously don't have anything bad to say about Minnesota. And they've got obviously a little bit of a spot/rest advantage because Detroit played Monday Night Football, and who knows what time they got back to Detroit Tuesday morning, probably 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever. I don't care, though. Got to go Detroit at home. And then let's also go team total over 29 and a half. And the last 4 games, they've had 40, 34, 42, and 34. Number 1 in the NFL in scoring, 33.3 points per game average. Last 7 games, Jared Goff, 18-2 TDI&T ratio. And I'll probably be on the team total for a little bit more amount-wise, but they're both pretty strong plays for me.
B, let's hope, because I don't know if you guys stuck around to watch the end of this game last night. No idea. I just know this year they won't be sending Christmas cards to one another. What was going on with your boy, the Lane Train, and my man, Uncle Mario, just drunk, scoring points, throwing bombs with 2 minutes left to just drive the score. You like a total tonight. You hoping these guys got a little animosity where the game may be in the bag and you get 20 points in 2 minutes? What was that?
So wait. Oh, last night I had turned that one off.
Listen,
but that
B,
sounds like Lane.
It was 45-14 with 2 minutes to go, and they scored 20 more points on the final play of the game.
Yeah, it's a bomb from Ole Miss, who's up 35.
They threw a skinny for like 30 yards down to the 7 when they looked like they were going to take a knee. It was incredible.
Was Diaz? Did he say anything to him at the handshake?
Manny's just being Manny. He's always mad.
Right? He does have that look.
My man stays mad. I don't have any idea what's going on, but you don't have near as big a number to hurdle tonight. It's just 53.5. What do you like?
Oh, we are talking
Texas Ohio State, Texas. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah. I got to go with the over here. I mean, obviously, Ohio State's offense is an absolute juggernaut, and they obviously could have scored a lot more than 41. They just went conservative in the second half against Oregon, and I just think this offense is rolling. And Texas' defense has played well, but it showed a little bit of weakness in the second half against Arizona State. And really, Arizona State had plenty of chances, to score in the first half and had some fourth down failures. But, yeah, I like how Texas's offense is playing. But I like how Ohio State's offense is playing. But the over has hit in back-to-back for Texas, combined scores of 62. And then what was it going into overtime? 30? No, it was only 24.
24.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so that would have been under then, or at least this number. But Ohio State, go ahead, Damon.
I'm telling you, B, I'm shocked this total is so low. And the lower the lower this number is, the less apt I would be to lay the 6 with Ohio State. Because the lower scoring it is, man, you're allowing that Texas defense to get busy. And we've seen that Ohio State's offensive line, they're capable of struggling with physical fronts.
And they'll be facing a physical front in Texas.
Yeah, that front is outstanding. They're way good.
Yeah, I actually if the number gets to 7, I'm gonna be thinking about Texas. I'm not gonna say I'm definitely gonna do it. I don't know that it'll get to 7, but right now it's just the over for me, 53 or 53.5. And I feel good about the over. And if I do get involved with the side, it'll be for a smaller amount than the over. But we'll speak again before kickoff on this, right? What's the date on this?
Yeah, those are Fridays, I believe.
What's the date? Oh, the 10th. Oh, okay. Well, a week from today. Yeah.
I see what you did here with the Ravens. Did you have to rub your eyes? Because we'll get to Notre Dame, Penn State in a sec. When you saw 20. Sure. 20.
Well, I feel like I saw 17.5 yesterday.
I mean, 20s are egregious.
Right? That is.
Well, what are we doing?
I'm not laying 20. I'm not laying 20, ever. But I will lay 6 in the first quarter. And I looked up Baltimore is 4-0 in the first quarter, the last 4 games, up by 7 or more in each of those. Even the game they lost to the Eagles, they were up 9-0 at the end of the first quarter. So I'm going to go Ravens -6, or I would do it all the way to 6.5 in the first quarter. And then I'm going to do their team total in the first half over 16.5. I don't think Cleveland's going to be able to do much offensively. I know they've had a good defense for the most of the year, but the Ravens in revenge mode, and they'll be looking to take care of things early and hopefully get some rest fourth quarter, early second half if they can.
You're not hitching your wagon to Bailey Zappi here to cover the 20. We're not doing that.
Man. Not gonna do it. He covered some numbers for me at Western Kentucky, but I don't know that I'm back to the NFL.
This ain't the hilltop. I was just gonna say that too, B. Hey, so let's go back to college real quick, because you knew this line was gonna be tight with 2 very similar style physical teams. Just a slight number, 1.5, man, depending on which you get in on the good side. Can you beat the closing line, B. Edwards?
Wow, I'm just seeing this game is the 9th. So, man, Penn State's got major rest.
So that's why they wanted to play at 3 o'clock. They didn't want to play at night because they're already a day behind, and they wanted to get back.
Well, they're 2 days behind now, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Because Penn State played the early game. So that's a rest advantage. But I still like Notre Dame, man. I like the way they're playing defensively, special teams. They're looking good. And, I mean, I think we got to think of Penn State's had a pretty easy path, playing SMU and Boise State. And SMU was a group of 5 last year, and Boise State's a group of 5. So, I'm thinking Notre Dame here. Minus the 1.5. Yep.
That's our guy Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, MajorWager.com. B, we appreciate the time as always. We will talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, fellas. All right, y'all have a good one.
That's our guy Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. Man, you give me Notre Dame -1 again, I'll be all over that.
I'm glad I could bring you over to the Domer side.
Listen, I'm a Marcus Freeman guy. I've been there.
Told you those guys.
My guy Anthony Rizak's there. You know about that.
The X-Man, Mr. Watts.
You can have Teddy, but I've got claim on Anthony.
All right, then I'll take X too.
All right, that's fair. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by Mike Sautter of Hurrdat Sports and NEBPreps. What's going on, Sautter?
Oh, not much. Jets just interviewing Mike Vrabel today. That's why I got the green background today.
Yeah, it'd be the worst decision he's ever made. So good luck not getting that guy.
Wow.
Right, he's not taking that job.
Yeah, there's 0% chance.
He's interviewing today.
It's okay.
Can we get Louis Riddick and Mike Vrabel? That would be a coup.
So
can you get a new owner?
Okay, so can we just say something about Louis Riddick real quick?
Is he?
Because I don't know why you wouldn't hire that guy. Mm-hmm. Apparently, like Louis Riddick has got like the greatest life, right? You can pay him millions to just have like strong opinions and not have the stress of getting fired
or getting it right.
Why would Louis Riddick get back into that world? He's living the semi-charm life with zero stress. If he let his hair grow back, it would never be great.
I would.
You and me, Jerome.
I would hire that. I want that guy to be the GM really bad.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. I think he's really, really good. Would you have been all in on the Rex Ryan thing?
Yep.
He can function. Look, he has proven, though. We laugh because he's got the perfect teeth and he's a little weird, but he can function in chaos.
Let me tell you.
You need something like that in New York.
I've been a New York Jets fan since 5th grade. I'm in my middle 40s. The only time the New York Jets have been good was under Rex Ryan. I will take that guy back all day, every day. Also, so much so, look at this. I mean,
this dude is.
I have his book. I read this book.
Yes, that's
Play Like You Mean It. Rex Ryan, New York Jets. He's hugging Mark Sanchez on the back of this book. I read this entire book.
You went through a stretch where you consumed a lot of literature. Are you still smart?
Yeah, I got a couple books I'm working through right now. 3, actually.
Wait. How are you reading 3 books at one time?
Little chunks of them at a time. So, I don't have the attention span to do that. Do that much. One book at a time is tough. I was on
that's a mindset thing, right? You can read a third of 3 books for one whole book, but can't read one book.
Yeah, I can't. I got bored. Believe it or not, knowing me, I got bored
in my house. Bored in my house.
Yeah, and so I kind of was like, okay, I need a new book and this and that. So I'm trying to finish this Activate Leadership book.
Like the Wonder Twins.
I don't know.
Wonder Twin powers. Activate.
I'm really more of a Captain Planet guy.
Form of a leader.
I have no idea.
An iceberg.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Jerome Sautter, not here for the Super Friends. That's fine.
Or for Captain Planet.
I don't know what that
combined.
I don't know what that means.
Terrible cartoon.
I love Captain Planet.
Jerome, are you waiting for breaking news?
I am with bated breath. I have the notifications on my phone.
Hey, I don't think we've talked to you since Wisdom left Millard South, right?
Yep, there it is. There it is.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Millard South has a new football coach, and his name.
Jerome, did you hit pause?
I think you muted yourself.
You muted yourself out of level of excitement.
Shane, did you mute him?
Did you mute him, Shane?
No, but he might need to.
Did I do something wrong?
We Jerome Sautter, we cannot hear you.
No one can hear you, Mike.
I didn't mute.
He's like, I don't know.
We did lose the internet, so.
Oh,
so
terrific!
Oh, that's awesome! Right when we were gonna get breaking news. Kobe goes, he's not muted.
Maybe he has to log back in.
Hey, Jerome, can you log out and log back in quick?
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't.
Yep, he's doing it. He's logging out and logging back in.
I don't always trust his mute button since every time he comes here, we can hear the stream through his computer.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna definitively say it's not on him.
Are you good? Do you think you'd be good at profiling?
Oh yeah.
What do you think Kobe's like?
So it's hard because internet people are not.
I'm very interested in what he's like in real life.
Yeah, because a lot of times internet, like we see this with Lance on the phone and Lance on the internet are totally
Lincoln
different.
Lance or Florida Michigan Lance.
No, Lincoln Lance.
Yeah,
totally different people on the phone versus on the internet.
Correct.
Michigan Lance, basically the same person on the phone as he is in person, as he is on the internet.
I'm captivated by Kobe. Jerome, are you back?
Yeah, I'm here.
Nope, we're not.
Apparently the stream can hear him, but we can't. Shane, what happened?
How can we not?
How can the stream hear him, but we can't?
Islands in the stream.
Hey,
can the stream hear us?
You know what? I'll just call him.
Okay, call him.
I can hear you.
See you, Jerome. You look good. We'll call you.
Stream, can you tell us who the new coach of Millard South is if he announced it?
Is this the definition of bated breath?
We kind of been knowing, but I'm going to let Jerome do his thing.
No, but we haven't been on the air since Wisdom left for Chandler, Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a big deal that happened, and I don't think anyone was terribly shocked.
No, I was waiting for that new sheriff in town, but
who's the new sheriff?
Well, that's what he said, but I guess we can wait on that.
Well, sheriffs move too. It's an elected position, so sometimes in a lot of places, so sometimes they move along.
Damn it. Shane, do we have Jerome? I see Jerome.
You can be police chief at a couple different places, and
hey, Mike Sautter. Shane, what?
We good? Are we good?
He just yelled at me. Shane just yelled. That's pretty good for a little kid.
All right, Sautter.
Hi, Mike. What do we got?
Who's the new football coach of Millard South, Mike?
Easy peasy. That was not my fault.
That was your boy,
Good
Shane.
Lord.
Shane Edward Schillerberg.
Shane, why are you? Never mind.
So Jerome,
Taylor
in the worst kept
Mendenhall.
secret in America, what do we got?
Taylor Mendenhall is the new head football coach at Millard South High School. Was on the staff most recently as the quarterbacks coach. Been on the staff for a while. He played for Coach Means and coached under Coach Cool and Carney and Coach Means and Coach Wisdom. So they keep it in-house. And Taylor Mendenhall is the new head football coach.
This is first head coaching gig, right?
100%, yes.
You know, the cool thing about that is Coach Mendenhall will, I would imagine, I hope that he has talked to Coach Means already. I would love to see Coach Means back around
the program.
Yeah. So congratulations to Coach Mendenhall.
Yeah.
It's a good move because I think you want to stay as cohesive as possible.
Yeah, because there are a lot of returners for next year, right? So you should be able to, with some cohesiveness, be able to give yourself a shot.
Yeah. So about a week ago, Jerome, this would have been maybe the 21st or whatever, Saturday, I spent quite a bit of time with two very lovely people, Mr. and Mrs. Urban. And I felt like it was so I bet we talked, Mike, like probably 2 hours straight, just shooting the breeze. I was just captivated, kind of like listening to different perspectives and stuff like that for like programs and kids and perceptions and just doing life in general. I think Millard South did the right thing here. Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Congrats to Coach Mendenhall.
What ways is Coach Mendenhall different than Coach Wisdom?
Ooh. I think he's got some bravado, but not quite as much. Does that make sense? I think they'll still play with like that chip on their shoulder, and kind of us against the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's as aggressive. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. They had Millard South had an edge, and it came from their head coach. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I don't think that's As someone that I think got along with Coach Wisdom pretty well, I don't think he'd mind me saying that at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Hey, so how about last night with the finals and holiday tournaments? We saw some impressive performances with a few coaches in the house. We'll start on the girls' side. when this is dumb to say out loud, but for perhaps no other team like Millard West, their ability to shoot the three is incredible when they're going in.
Okay, yeah. What Neely Gessert did last night was pretty crazy. Like
getting all the assists from her sister too. That's incredible.
Yeah, like Nora almost had a triple double. How many times does that happen with assists? And it doesn't, right? So the fact that Millard North was guarding her, like not, up really like in her face, like touching her, but they were guarding her and she was just catching it and shooting it over, like over the top. There was nothing that they could do, like as far as Millard North last night, because there was one, I think it was her 7-3 that was like, how did she just get that off and it go in? It was amazing. I mean, it was at the top of the key, just a catch and shoot thing that just, she caught it and just fired it right away. And there was someone guarding her right there. So, when they're going. Now, one thing I'll say is Kylie Pavin is a huge factor for them that doesn't get talked about near enough. She's a really nice player and she gets overshadowed, I think, publicly by the Twins, but I know that the Twins think, their team thinks, the coaches think, everyone around them thinks that she's pretty good and a pretty important piece to what they have going on at Millard West. And if they're going to repeat, they're going to need her and others to kind of keep doing what they're doing and step up a little bit. So,
how about responding? How about the quick start she got off to with coaches in the house? That's pretty impressive. A lot of people don't handle that moment very well.
No, yeah, it was good, man. Like I thought that they were. I thought the game plan to start the game for Millard North was okay. We're going to use our 1-3-1 zone that helped them come back and beat Millard South in the semis, and we're going to slow the pace down and really value possession to do when they were making threes like that. It just
if you're Coach Paulson, how do you handle that rotation?
Yeah, it feels like he trimmed it down some in the semifinals because normally he's playing like 10, 15 players, right? But
that's a little extreme, but yeah, he's got options. He can play 10 for sure.
10. I mean, it feels like there's just everybody that just come in waves, and in the semis he kind of cut that down. But then last night he played a lot more because the game got out of hand and like you just play everybody. But I don't know. I think they need some help from the bench, and they need what people, I guess, consider their two best players at times, Abril Smith and Gallatin, to really step up and make shots and be a little more consistent. So, Millard North is going to probably be a state tournament team. So how do you close that gap? That's kind of a big question.
Mike, going over to the boys' side, obviously Papio South gets the win over previous number one, or I guess current number one, West Side.
He had Levi Webb on his bingo card.
Did you?
Yeah, Levi Webb. Yeah, me and everybody else had Levi Webb going for 27 in the final.
I know he was on Coach Simon's scout.
Yeah,
once he hit the first two shots and they continued to try to get the ball out of Kircher's hands, I was like, they're gonna make him beat. Oh my gosh,
he's gonna beat him.
Oh my god, wait, that's 21. Oh my god, that's what I was saying the whole time.
Yeah, they were kind of doubling Reese to get it out of his hands because he's the head of the snake for them, 100%. And I got to give Reese a ton of credit because remember, like a couple weeks ago, he was hurt. I remember talking about him and how important he is for that team. No way they win the tournament without Reese.
Yeah,
there's no way.
And I asked you what you thought was going on with them early in the season, and we both were like, well, no Kircher.
Yeah, right. Like
Ball had scored like his 40th point in the fourth quarter, and they were down, and I was like, yeah, he needs some help.
Yeah, needs a guy, right? Like, so Reese made a play that basically sealed the game. And it's one of those that isn't, it wasn't a three or a shot. He tipped the ball out of Lee Robinson's hand. This was with 1 minute left in the game,
when he turned,
and they're up. Yeah, and he tipped the ball. He was first to the floor.
And then just passed it up. You're right. That was you're right. Yeah. You're right.
He was first to the floor. Lee just bent over to pick it up and not dove on the floor. Reese kind of rolled, might have been a travel. But he pitched
they sure wanted it in the gym.
Yeah, he pitched ahead to Bryson Ball for the run out. And like that play was huge. But that's also one of those plays that like it's not in the, it's in the stat sheet as a steal and not an assist because Bryson dribbled 3 times. By the way, 3 dribbles is not an assist. So like for stat people, 2 dribbles, you maybe get an assist.
That's only for Jacob Padilla.
But that was a huge moment, huge play that just kind of gets overlooked a little bit. So yeah.
Can I go back to something real quick, Jerome?
Yeah.
I think I get it because it's early, but they're 6-2. I want to go back to the girls' side real quick. Shouldn't we be talking more about one of the better stories in basketball, which is Bellevue East?
Bellevue East girls?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like they what Coach Lanier has done.
Let's be seriously.
No, yeah, what he's done has been pretty dang good.
It's fantastic how they recovered. It's fantastic.
Yeah, like you lose a coach like in the fall. Now, I mean, Coach Lanier has been there, as an assistant, but what he's been able to do and pull them together.
Yeah.
They beat Millard West. They had a shot to beat them in the Metro tournament.
That got away from them late, though.
Yes, just late. That's what I mean. They had a shot. And Wilson is they have a couple really nice players. They're a tough matchup.
Jayla Wilson or Wilson Smith?
Jayla Wilson, right?
Okay. Well,
is that right?
Wilson Smith leads them in scoring, but Jayla is right there. I bet you she's going for double digits a night.
Yeah, I guess I haven't looked that deep.
Sorry,
on that, but
I'm a nerd.
No, that's all right. It's fine.
I apologize.
That's fine.
My bad.
But it is impressive, and he's kind of just he hasn't pieced it together. He's brought it together. Like I feel like they're playing for each other. They like each other more. It's a lot more positive of an environment around that team. Which, hey, it's a credit to him and the work he's done. So I mean, Lanier's parents. I joked with their dad, the boys who are the head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, you guys are in the gym every day.
Every stinking day.
Yeah, like you gotta be around like a lot of games to go watch your sons be head coaches of, which is also something that's pretty cool if you think about it. 2 brothers being, the head coach at the school that they went to and played for and kind of were stars at. So yeah.
And considering that I was rocking my Omaha gear yesterday, and everybody thinks I'm crazy when I wear my Mavs gear all the time, but the ladies have won 8 out of 9, which I think has got potential to be a pretty good story coming up, but I won't drag you through names and throw you curveballs this morning. So I'm going to stay right where you just were this week with Nebraska men's basketball. How important is this an offensive-minded team, a defensive-minded team? This is a what team? As we see them just suffocate people.
Yeah, they're 100% a defensive team.
But they can still score. It's weird.
It is weird. It's not pretty. But Bryce Williams obviously has been like, that's a given, right? He's been the guy. They need now tomorrow. Don't look for a lot of offense tomorrow. that thing's gonna be a grind. It's gonna be rough.
UCLA is so stinking physical.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know. Number 4 in defensive efficiency in the country, and they're number 1 in turnover percentage rate. So that's not great because Nebraska defensively is 15th in defensive efficiency, but they are also 158th in turnover percentage on the offensive side.
Yeah.
So, and non-steal turnover percentage is 9.2. That is 314th in the country. So you don't
and that's out of 347, right?
Yeah, UCLA will turn you over. You don't need to help them by, stepping out of bounds or dribbling off your foot or throwing it into the first row. Like that's going to have to be really tight tomorrow. Like you maybe could get away with 1 or 2 of those, not 4 or 5. Because those, UCLA will make you pay.
That's 1 o'clock too. Is that Big Fox?
Yeah, 1 o'clock, Big Fox. I will say this. I mean, Nebraska is going for, this would be their 20th home win in a row. For some reason, Pinnacle Bank Arena is really hard to play in. I mean, it is ridiculously hard to play in. I think
I only know that from my high school experience. I don't know about college basketball.
This game might be in the 50s. Like it has a chance to be really low scoring. High 50s, low 60s.
Like the old Nebraska Mick Cronin battles of days past.
Yeah, like
Did you guys see Rob Anderson's stats on most wins since 10-11?
I did. I got it right.
Would you have put Cronin in that bunch?
No, because it was who'd been at the school since 10-11. I knew he hadn't been at UCLA for 15 years or 14 years.
Yeah, but the wins though.
Right.
He has a ton.
He does.
Yeah.
I was shocked to see him in
he's low key. Like people forget about Mick Cronin.
Man.
He's not low key at all. He's low key a good coach because we want to talk about him nationally.
That's what low key means, Mike.
Yeah,
I knew you were gonna say that.
You can't say it's not low key and then define it as being low key.
Jerome, he's only been back for 2 days, but dude's been on a heater.
I'm saying, if you ever seen that guy coach, he's not real. That little guy is pretty high.
But like a guy that can coach that doesn't get the recognition is literally the definition of low key.
I know, but I'm saying he is.
Jerome, he just got a new Benz. And he's rolling around here with his seat cocked back. Like, this dude is living the Simicharm life, Jerome. I mean, we're just in his world we're just trying to make it.
I'm just trying to survive today.
Yeah.
I gotta.
Me and you, us disenfranchised people dealing with the establishment, man.
Fight the power, boys. Fight the power. We're not gonna take it.
Go, Mike Vrabel.
I gotta be a dad all day. I gotta be a dad all day. And
nobody made you have kids, man.
His urges did.
They got stuff for that.
Like,
there's ways around that.
Upstairs yelling. Kids are upstairs yelling right now. What do you mean?
Enjoy your day, Jerome.
See you, Mike.
Hold on. Lily's talking to me. What do you need?
What? Hang up on the phone.
All right.
Bye.
Man, I gotta go.
Bye.
All right, bye.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on forcecasino.com.
FAU, you're dead to me.
Yeah. You know who's alive and well, though?
I was right. I mean, I told you that number, I said it's a Notre Dame play or stay away.
Yeah.
That fit
all
every criteria I would look for.
You just didn't like the unknown.
I just couldn't.
Backup
I just couldn't know. I just didn't know about the backup QB,
which is totally fair. And he played pretty well, I thought.
Yeah, I don't think he had any. That was not on him.
Oh, not at all.
He did not.
You could put it on a lot of people, including his wide receivers that couldn't catch a ball, but not a lot on Gunnar Stockton.
It's neither here nor there now, but I'm telling you, ATN was disappointing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, cause I'm
He's
like
good.
watching running styles.
Yeah.
He was not himself.
You think he was getting spooked out by Notre Dame's defensive line, or like what?
No, he's better when he's climbing on your toes.
Yeah. I mean, that happens to a lot of guys in big games, right? They try and do too much.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an uncommon deal. You don't usually see it with running backs necessarily. Like, you think more of it with quarterbacks trying to make throws they can't make. You think about it a lot in basketball with guys trying to do stuff they can't do. But you don't often talk about it with running backs.
No, I'm with you.
But I think you're right. Like, trying to do too much.
I'm glad, because you don't often say that.
Oh, I think you're right all the time. I just don't like to say it out loud. I don't like to plump the ego too much, you know? I like to
rolling in my benzo.
Just try and keep you humble, you know?
That's all right. Listen, I have such low self-esteem. You don't have to worry about me being overconfident. You don't have to. So it'll be, you know, I may occasionally bury myself in a bottle or something, man. Me and self-esteem do not get along.
Like you and Eminem, just like crack a bottle.
That's my dude. Love him. Although
that's a terrible song, though.
So he's apparently sober these days.
He is, yeah. Yeah, that was the recovery album. He got sober.
Got off mom's spaghetti and
no vomit on a sweater
and booze. By the way, my fellow Detroit Tonians are not big fans of mom's spaghetti.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Not a big fan?
Neither is my man, Mr. Chime Time on TikTok. He crushed mom's spaghetti.
You know why I'm so confident all the time? Because when I say things that I don't know if they're true or not, they end up being true like 90% of the time.
Oh, gosh.
Like yesterday when we were talking about mid-majors and Cinderella's going to the Final Four.
Did you do the evidence?
I did the math.
Yeah, and you know what? So this is interesting that you started with that supposition.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you talked, what did I say at the very end?
You're like, yeah.
I started out with
no way.
I was like, I don't know about that.
And then you're like, I'm probably not going to fight you on it.
And then the more you talked and you took out Bluebloods, I was like, I'll ride with that subtle goalpost move because I think you were trying to arrive at a general point. So I wasn't going to hold your feet to the fire of a specific thing.
I'm talking about generally, right?
So by the time you ended, I was like, I probably wouldn't fight you over that.
So here's where we ended up, right? There's 39 years of the expanded tournament, so 64 or more, right? That means you've had 156 teams make a Final Four since 1985.
It's a good chunk of data.
It is a pretty good chunk of data. Do you want to guess how many non-blue bloods that were a 6 seed or lower? So I included the 6 seeds in there.
I think you should.
6 seed or lower. How many of those teams made a Final Four? Non-blue blood.
Of the 156.
Correct. 39 different years.
Oh my gosh, Ravi.
I'm just curious. I'm genuinely curious what you would think that number is.
I'm going of 6 seeds or higher.
Yes, including the 6 seeds. Non-blue bloods.
Because the correct term is higher, not lower.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
I use worser sometimes to make sure people understand. 6 seed or worse.
156, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Since 85?
Since 85.
It's Georgetown Nova?
Yep. Which is one of them, by the way, because I didn't count them as a blue blood in 85.
For clarity's sake, mental Rolodex. I'm going to go with a paltry 23.
Lower. It is 13. 13.
Random.
And I even counted a 11 seed UCLA because by the time they did that, I didn't feel like they were a blue blood anymore. So I counted some that could have gone either way.
So I'm not going to fight you. But what I would say is I would love to get into the blue blood versus not blue blood.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've got the list here. I can give you some examples like 2016 UCLA or not 2016. 2021 UCLA.
This is dumb because I do agree with you. I don't think UCLA is blue blood.
Yeah, 2021 UCLA, I took them out as a blue blood. I counted that as one of the 13.
Okay.
I counted, NC State last year.
That's correct.
I counted. So here's Sporting Goods show. Like Herschel Walker.
Quick trivia.
Yeah.
Who did Herschel Troutman play for?
I have no idea.
Shane, thoughts?
I couldn't even tell you what sport.
Football.
I figured, but.
I'm not well-rounded?
No. That's the name.
Do you want to talk about East Girls basketball? You want to talk 8 out of 9 UNO women's basketball?
The name sounded like a football player to me. I was going to go football or baseball. He sounds like a 70s baseball player. But I don't know if I'm just doing the Trout thing.
Colorado.
There you go.
Carry on.
I was going to say Iowa.
Same colors. Close. I did count 2016 Syracuse as a blue blood. That could go either way, I think. I won't fight you if you say no.
Syracuse a blue blood?
It was still under Boeheim. I
don't
gave it to him.
think so.
Okay, so 14. We'll give it 14.
Are there any other tweeners like that?
I'm looking here. Wichita State wasn't a blue blood. VCU not a blue blood. Butler not a blue blood.
What about Michigan?
By the way,
I counted the 6th seed Michigan in 92 as one of the outliers, as one of the non-majors.
So a non-blue
blood. At 92, that's not a blue blood.
God, I wish you would have been more.
I know you wanted me to be worse at this. I can tell. I mean, that's what you wanted.
Can I ask you a Troutman question?
Let me give you props.
Can I ask you a Troutman question real quick?
Okay, let's just start there. God, I'm hit you in the face with this water bottle.
Can I ask you a Troutman question real quick?
Sure.
Is he in that clip that I always play in the highlights of the Foreman interception?
Might have been.
I think he is.
Might have been because that was about his era.
So 2000.
That might have been, Shane. That's a heck of a pool.
2000, I counted North Carolina as a blue blood. I did not count Wisconsin as an 8 seed as a blue blood. Let's see, where else did we have? In 92,
Shane, that's incredible.
He's just out here pulling Troutman knowledge.
Because I think
my delay was a little on there, but
it's all right.
Now I think I love being right, so I don't want to just throw out numbers because you have no margin for error.
Sure, yeah.
It's not like generally.
Yeah.
I think he was 93 to 97, which would include Jay Foreman.
Herschel Troutman.
So I think you're spot on because he stepped in front of him for that pick. I'm almost positive.
Yeah. Herschel Troutman, Colorado. Moment of truth here.
Yeah, give me the years.
Moment of truth. Ooh, 94 to 97.
Damn it.
You gave him an extra year.
It's fine.
He might have redshirted in 93. I don't know. I don't have that here. Just the years that he played were 94 to 97. So we'll count it. That's good. That's a W.
That's a heck of a pull, Shane.
Look at Shano over here. 2000, I counted North Carolina as a blue blood. I did not count Wisconsin.
You counted? What'd you do? Do you give Carolina a favor?
No, I'm just saying those were 87, 6 seed Providence. I did not count as a blue blood.
I feel like I just want to pick a fight now.
86 LSU, 11 seed, did not count as a blue blood. Virginia 84 did not count as a blue blood. Houston 82 did not count as a blue blood. Or no, that's 82's pre. So that was our last one.
Interesting.
14 if we include
that's not a very so what you should have done is 14 by 156. What's that percentage?
I did the number. It's 0.8%. 13 out of 150. It's 0.833 repeated if you want to get technical.
Hat tip, big dummy.
But yeah, and here's the even more dramatic part, right? So out of those 14 teams, only 3 made national title games, and only 1 won it. 1985 Villanova in the very first year of the expanded tournament. Only a single one of those teams has been in the final one of those final 4 teams. Or one of the final teams since 1992.
Are you feeling pretty? Ravi?
I'm feeling pretty right. So yeah, synonymous.
This dude.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. The best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Warhorse Sportsbook, no bets, no glory. We've got Matt Vrzal coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show, wrapping up the week here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined by our friend on Friday, Matt Vrzal, owner of Pison's Pizzeria, former Husker. What's up, Verz?
What is up, boys? Good to see you're back at work.
Hi, Matty. How are things?
Hey, friend who doesn't answer phone calls. How are you?
Listen, anything between the 23rd and the 28th is a blur. It's a blur. I apologize. I'm tired.
You don't mean that.
Maddie, with the utmost respect, man, I apologize. You're like one of my few go-tos. I do not want to take you for granted. I'm sorry, man. Will you forgive me?
Seems fake, but anyway.
sigh, though.
Seems fake.
Wow. I was in Neb City, and I was talking, and I said, and this is no disrespect, right? Two things can be true at once, and I'm mad that I said no disrespect because I don't think I should have to couch the comment. So I feel like because I'm talking to a very good offensive lineman, I should couch the comment. Nebraska played a meaningful postseason game with guys like Gunnar Gatula playing meaningful minutes. It's no disrespect to Gunnar Gatula, but he was, if you look at how the Big Ten was won by these teams that are winning, it is physical play and dominant play up front, offensive and defensive lines, right? That's safe. Gatula's still probably legitimately a year or two away from strength and development. Hat tip, aberration, smoke and mirrors. There has to be something to Nebraska's development that allowed them to play meaningful games with guys that aren't quite that you'd like to have seen get another year of development, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean it's all in the eye.
You want to say no, don't you? I know you do.
Of the beholder. It's how if you take it away as a win, and yeah, I mean I think it's something that I get it. Like you kind of got your hand forced and you had to do it, and that's the way it ended up. Yeah, I mean probably still a project that's two years out. Footwork needs work. Those kind of things, but I'm not down there every day with them, so maybe there's things that
I just use him as an example because they had to force some guys into action in a hurry.
Oh yeah, but that's football. Like adversity and all that's going to happen. I mean, you got a backup quarterback that kind of got exposed last night in Georgia, but every week there's a second team guy in, there's a third team guy in. It's just what it is. You have to be ready to take your opportunity and make the most out of it. And his opportunity has presented itself. And I think they were, through whatever it may be, recruiting, however the roster looks, that's their best option. So they got to put it in there and live with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching Notre Dame just shuttle through D linemen last night, right? It's like, wow. I guess the next man up is a real thing.
Yeah, and as we get into the salary cap era of football, I like numbers. I think numbers aren't the end all be all, but I think they can tell you a path. So we took at Pison's a survey, top best run NFL organizations. Okay. The boss went on the interwebs, found a position by position breakdown by money of how they spend. Mm. So then you put the total the team spends and how then they proportionally allocate it per position. Well, then that would give you then a percentage of how, say you have $15 million to spend, how you should spend your money. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if we mirror the average of the 10 best, the thing that stuck out to me, quarterback, of course, number one, duh. Number two, on the successful teams, D-line. Number three, on the successful teams, O-line. So that's where the best of the best spend their money. Now, there's outliers and there's things that bring it back to get it to an average, but that's what you find. There's your sauce. That's how you spend. You get the wolves up front leading the pack, and the rest of it follows.
So which is the more surprising thing maybe surprising is too strong a word. As you kind of look at the CFP and they'll make a ton out of the three quote unquote northern teams, and obviously no outside of Texas you have the one new SEC member, or the fact that the teams that had the time off did not fare very well. Now, I'm not a big guy. The latter doesn't bug me as much because I think in a couple of those matchups, they weren't the better team anyway. So I'm not sure what I do with the buy data. But how do you see it?
12. I would love to know who picked 12. The dumbest number ever. 8. Just go to 8. It's simple. But I think the NCAA or college football at times is like a high school girl. Like they like the drama, like they live for the drama. They wanted the complaining because it keeps them top of mind. But there's no need for 12. 8's the number. Then you play the 8 down. Then once 8 gets too annoying, then you go to 16. And like, okay, now we got legit. 17. If it gets to 16 and 17 starts bitching, yeah, you're wrong. You're just out. Like, you late. But football isn't a game to take weeks off. Like you have to stay active, and you can try to replicate it, but you can't. I mean, we scrimmaged like good versus good when we had time off. And the thing I love about the way this is shaking out the most is that the physical teams have risen to the top. The teams that live by a code, to practice physically and play physically. I mean, there are dudes like getting smoked out there. Like they are Scalaboo, guarantee hardest he'd been hit all year, and he didn't like it. Now he showed out at the end, but he didn't like it at the time. Yeah, there was a quick rotation for your boy.
My man was just taking it.
He would get jacked, and he would look over the sidelines, and he would take himself out.
Look how physical Notre Dame was last night at the point of attack.
It works for eternity. If you want to be good at football, anybody out there that's coaching right now, eliminate all your crap. Eliminate all the crap. And just go out and train them to run them through physical drills and get them to be bloodthirsty and get them to play the game physically and watch everybody else fold. Because nobody likes that. Nobody wants to get hit hard. Nobody wants that. You never get up from a hard hit like, oh, man, that felt great. That was so awesome. Can't wait to do that again. No. Their little soft asses get up and like, oh, man, he hit me really hard. He's kind of a mean person. Yeah, I am. I'm going to be back in about 35 seconds. I'm going to try to take your head off of your body. I'm going to give you 15 yards. So I'm going to try to decapitate you. You get to 15 because guess what? Then I get to stay out on the field. I don't have to go off the field. I get to hit you again. Get those guys. Make those guys. And watch how the world gets better.
Did you by any chance sit through the end of Duke and Ole Miss last night?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I know how you are because you're going to play till the end and zeros hit the clock, and if you don't like it, stop it. But, like, are you waiting to hear that there's something going on between those two? That was an incredible final 2 minutes. You'd have thought it was a one-possession game.
But okay, here's the deal. Like, I've probably laughed at me when we had the first game of our day and it kind of got a little bit ugly. Said, hey, here's the path. Here's what you got to do to get back. Score here, onside kick, score, onside kick. And he's looking at me. He's like, dude, this is over. I'm like, it's never over. It is never over until that clock says 3-0. So never, I can't think that way. And I know Lane Kiffin. Like, I know how he operates. Yeah, I went to high school with his cousin. And when they didn't lay down, he put the thump on him, and he just told basically like, lay down, and they didn't lay down. And he's like, okay, then I'm gonna score again because I had it at this point, and you chose to ruin that point, so now I'm going back to that point.
I can't believe it's not more of a story. You know what I mean?
Why? But why? Why? Like, you think because like, oh, he wouldn't call off the dogs.
Yeah. So you saw it was kind of like the little bit of a victory formation, and then he like threw a skinny for the last play of the game. It was just like, I don't know.
No.
Are we seeing a change maybe?
No. You know how that goes. You take it back to Arizona State in '95. Matt Turman, Lance Brown. That quarterback had a read. He made that read. He might have changed into that play. Actually, we don't know that. He's doing He's doing what he's taught to do.
I hear you.
And nobody gave him the kill switch. They didn't go. And you know that happens too. You have to tell kids, hey, you're going to get a read. Don't make the read just down the ball. And the kid's like, nope, this is my time, baby. I'm chucking this thing.
Dude, if they'd have scored, I'd have left.
And I'm getting in the portal tomorrow.
Got to get that tape out there, Matt.
1 for 1 touchdown, total. See ya.
That's Matt Vrzal, former Husker owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. Hey, Verz, appreciate you taking care of me on New Year's Eve. It was good to see you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Matty.
Yours.
That is Hurrdat Sports Radio. We will be back on Monday. We'll talk to you then.